Here are some of the obvious but maybe not so obvious things that are good to realize as a newbie looking to travel by sail. First of all, sailboats travel slow. Depending on the size of the vessel, the weather, the sail setup, an average speed of a sailing vessel is around 5 knots. And 5 knots means 5 nautical miles per hour. This is about 9 kilometers an hour, which is between walking and cycling speed. So if you're on a schedule or in a hurry, impatient, or not comfortable with the thought, not really knowing when to arrive, then traveling by sailboat may not be the best. The next thing that's important to realize, if not essential, is adaptation. Adaptation is key when joining on someone else's sailboat. When being on a boat, you need to adapt to the situation on board. Firstly, you are entering someone else's home, but a boat doesn't operate like a home does on the land. There will be limited resources like water and power, and this requires some resourcefulness and adaptation. Secondly, sailing hardly ever goes as planned. There are so many variables, of which the main one is the weather, and captains make their plans accordingly. Therefore, it's so important that you make agreements and communicate clear from the start. Consider and be aware about alternative travel scenarios in advance to be able to deal with a change of course, stress-free and with peace of mind. Being on a sailboat also requires adaptation in terms of privacy. Boats are enclosed and small spaces, and privacy can be little. You are sharing with others, so it's also important to have a nice team, and the captain is in charge, whether you like it or not. And all these elements require a certain level of adaptation. An example, I would have loved to film this course on a sailboat, but with so many variables, it's hard to do that on someone else's boat, unless you are fully aligned with how you would like to go about the day. And then still, you have the weather to deal with. Which brings me to the next point. With sailing, you don't just live with the weather, you are ruled by it. This in turn brings experience that makes you surrender, observe, learn, adapt, and accept. The weather also greatly determines the route that sailing boats take. Sailing boats don't just go from A to B, like a cargo vessel or a ferry. And therefore you have to adjust your travel plans to the boat, to the weather. You can't have the boat adjust their travel plans to you. Sailboats deal with seasons, with routes, with weather, with breakage, and with all sorts of variables. For example, you can't just find a boat going from Spain to Mexico in August. First of all, it's not a common route. And second, it's hurricane season. So you have to be flexible with time and destination when looking to travel by sail. And your sailing possibilities generally come down to your flexibility with time, money, and your desire for adventure. How much time do you have? How much money can you and do you want to contribute to this adventure? When do you need to be where? Or even better, not having the need to be anywhere. And it's good to be flexible if things don't work out the way as planned. Also good to realize, sailing can be hard work. It's not always sunny days, perfect breeze, and jumping in the ocean. There's always some work to be done, maintenance to be done, and especially when preparing for a bigger trip, it's a lot of work. And as crew, most likely, you'll be taking on board to share the workload as well as the fun. And the captain is in command. So whether you like it or not, you gotta follow the orders.